Hello everyone. How are you faring in this world that seems to have gone crazy? It's hard to stay centered and stable within when there seems to be so much chaos around. The media is filled, this is a social media, is filled with all sorts of news, much of which is totally bizarre. Have you noticed that? But some of which might actually be true. And then the mainstream only publishes what our leaders want us to know and want us to fear, so people can be easily controlled. Or am I being ridiculous? Anyhow, we're having a change of sun sign this weekend. The sun is moving from the energy of Gemini into the energy of Cancer. And we have the winter solstice here in the southern hemisphere. Tonight I'm having a little dinner party with a bunch of ladies, and we're going to farewell the old and plant some seeds for the new at the solstice. And then on Sunday we have a solar eclipse. So this is when the moon passes between the earth and the sun. Lots of things happening this weekend. So at the solstice, we want to acknowledge with gratitude the lessons we have learned at all levels since the last winter solstice. Secondly, we consider the behaviours or habits we are letting go of. Let go of unconscious or otherwise, practices which don't serve us. And thirdly, let's plant some seeds for our new beginnings. What do you intentionally want to practice in order to make the changes that you want to manifest in your life? On the other hand, should you live in the Northern Hemisphere, it's time to celebrate. Have a party. It's like the fulfillment of the cycle of life, like a flower in full bloom. From now, the energy withdraws and prepares to move out of sight for reseeding at the winter solstice in December for you in the north. Now, the solar eclipse. Astrologers have been talking about this all over the place. The path of this eclipse passes over part of the African continent, Saudi Arabia, India and Pakistan. Now watch those locations for significant activity in the next few months. So often when we've had a major eclipse, there are extraordinary disturbances, both geophysical and otherwise, along the path of the eclipse. And remember, the energy of the eclipse can last up to 6 months after the eclipse itself. On a personal level, often an eclipse exposes something that's been hidden. So maybe we have an aha moment. Or we are surprised by matters revealing themselves as something different from our expectations or experience. Just observe. The energy of the eclipse persists for about 6 months. And my information sources, some of which may be dubious as far as you're concerned, suggest that there's much happening about which the mainstream media does not report. Be prepared for revelations that may surprise you. Eclipses occur in families. Every 18 to 19 years, a new eclipse occurs which carries the same family energy. And this particular eclipse on Sunday is predictably difficult. And the advice is to wait until the eclipse passes before any action. We all know that our situations are currently very much challenged. And our best strategy at the moment is to go with the flow. The time for striving and action will come at a later date, so just wait. In our summer, we had tracts of forest burned beyond recognition. Pluto was in Capricorn, conjunct Saturn and Jupiter in January. Much of our vegetation is designed to germinate with fire, and now our forests are beginning to grow again. In much the same way, we as humans need to let go of habits and behavior patterns that no longer serve our human family. Our consumption has not sustained a healthy environment. In order to create a healthier world, our consumption patterns need to change. So having enforced isolation has made us reevaluate so much of what we do. Some of that allows us to leave behind behaviors that are not sustainable. For example, should we spend a bit more money on quality garments rather than buy the cheap and disposable? I know some young girls who buy something and wear it once and throw it away. That doesn't honour the earth, doesn't honour the people who made the garments. We can't do that. Quality garments are made in ethical ways with quality materials and will last a bit longer and may even be repaired to prolong their life. It's called an investment. Of course, you sometimes get sick of wearing those things, but then make them over, do something different, put some different buttons on, reshape the neckline, or do something with the hem. There's lots of things you can do to prolong the life of a good quality garment. We have been preparing more meals at home. And so there's been the opportunity for us to create meals from source, as in S-O-U-R-S-C-E, rather than sauce, S-A-U-C-E. The many cooking programs help with ideas, but many of their ideas and practices are not practical for thrifty and ethical living. For example, how do you combine leftovers from the last few days into a nourishing meal for tonight? We need to relinquish or destroy those practices that drain our earth resources and value those which do. Only when we let go of the old, and it's not coming back, can we begin to create a new way of life. Just as a matter of interest, have you created a garden bed for some veggies or made plans to do that? Think about it. Don't wait for our leaders to show us the way. That was the way of the Piscean age, which is leaving us. In this age of Aquarius, into which we're moving quite quickly, we need to take responsibility for ourselves. Make your own decisions, which support not only your own needs, but also those of the wider family or community in which we live. It's not about being selfish, it's about being self-aware. In this forced isolation, families have spent much more time together. For some, this has only strengthened the bond between the individuals. For others, long-term issues have been exposed and need to be resolved in a healthy way. Unfortunately, there will be casualties. But what do we know about the greater scheme of life? As individuals, we have the responsibility to ourselves and our communities to make the effort to appreciate and value the differences that will lead to a community that is strong and sound and resilient. This isolation continues, although it's not as enforced, it's not as strict as it was before, and in many places the restrictions are easing, which is wonderful. It means you can go and see your friends, you can go and have a meal, you can go and have coffee. It's great. Some countries are worse off than others. But let's celebrate what we've learned about being by ourselves, being in isolation, and continue to try and make our communities and our families stronger. We have a couple of years left yet to really make this happen before the new world really unfolds before us. And one of the ladies that I've been listening to lately suggests that we are in the midst of chaos. You might even agree. Now, I'm no physicist, but apparently when you have chaos, when you have a gas or a liquid behaving in a chaotic manner, if only 1% of the molecules start connecting in a coherent manner, the rest will follow, perhaps a bit like sheep. The emerging body will be organized quite differently from the original. And you know, when you stand back and you look at where we're at and what we're doing, it appears that perhaps we might be in the throes of that reorganization at many, many levels. And we can help our evolution here by consciously changing our behavior to a more sustainable and comfortable model. What's that, you ask? Well, you create what you need and what will serve the greater good. Now to some basics. I rabble on about a few of these often. Breathing. Now you may or may not agree with Chef Pete Evans, but the controversy over the airing of his views on 60 Minutes attracted my curiosity, and so I watched his interview entirely. I found it interesting that 60 Minutes aired only a few minutes of the 90-odd minutes they spent talking to him. He raised many points of interest, and I've shared some of that on my Facebook post just last week. Pete questioned why the sort of personal development taught by Anthony Robbins. Now, if you haven't heard of Anthony Robbins, go and check him out. He's a very well respected and renowned personal development person. Pete questioned why what he teaches hasn't been taught in schools. Why do we have to wait till we've left school to find out about some of these personal development information? I think some of the schools are actually implementing similar programs, but it's certainly not widely spread. One of the issues Pete raised was breathing. I've rabbited on about breathing before. You know, breathing is fundamental to life. Yet do we teach our children to breathe correctly? Often we don't think about it. We believe that we do it intrinsically and they can do it. That's fine. They know how to breathe. It's normal. I can breathe, Evelyn, says my doctor friend. Well, yes, but are you conscious of your breathing? Are you fully expanding your lungs and really using the whole of your body to breathe efficiently? I have a YouTube video of how to do full yoga breathing, and you know, you don't have to be a yoga student to breathe correctly. And when you breathe fully, you know, all your organs function better, including your brain. You don't need to be a student of yoga to breathe fully and properly. Another point that was raised was nutrition. I often mention that too as a life skill. And Pete's question was more about, why don't the mainstream media report preventative nutrition information as a strategy against COVID-19 and most other bugs? Do you ever hear nutritional advice in the mainstream media? Or do the authorities, in inverted commas, fail to share this data, expecting nutritional education to be common sense? Well, we all know that common sense is not common. Or are these authorities so committed to the preventative potential of a vaccine that is yet to be developed and soundly tested that no alternative is considered? How many years will it really take for an effective vaccine to be developed? The SARS virus was rampant 20 years ago. It's a very similar virus to the COVID-19. To date, there is no vaccine for SARS. I ask you, is it reasonable to expect there to be a vaccine in the foreseeable future for COVID-19? By the time a robustly tested vaccine presents, the virus will have mutated and left us. I mean, they do that. We won't need it anymore. I know I'm controversial. You don't have to agree with me. You may have a very different view, and I think this is the benefit of having a wonderful free choice in our society. And this brings me to the next little topic about free choice, freedom of choice. And this isolation has been a huge interruption to our way of life. And for some of us, it's caused more problems than the virus itself. What about domestic violence? How much that's increased? What about child abuse? What about suicide rates? It's actually really quite sad. You know, regulations to manage our movements and restrict the spread of this virus have been very quickly enforced. I ask you, will those restrictions be lifted? Or is this the tip of the iceberg for the erosion of personal freedoms we have long valued and perhaps not appreciated or defended very well? Despite the restriction to our activities, it is important that we foster and nurture an optimistic outlook. Energy follows thought. What we think about is what we get. What are you thinking about? I might have talked about beer before. Oh, you might say, oh, we're going down the pub, we're going to have a beer. No, sorry to disappoint you. To sustain ourselves, I suggest you take care of the basics, and that is beer, breathing, eating properly for your body, exercising appropriately for your body, and resting or sleep. At the moment, the planetary energies are confining us and encouraging us to go within. This is a time, especially in the next few months, for us to hibernate. Stay home. Nurture yourself, your mind, your body, your inner being. Spend time alone. Allow that inner voice to guide you. Allow your mind and your heart to evaluate your future options. Allow those feelings to sort of percolate, ferment, evolve. Make plans, and you might even write them down, but wait for action. It's wonderful that it's for us in the southern hemisphere, this happens in the winter, and it's a great time for hibernating. So spend time with your family. Build bridges, resolve problems. Love each other, even though it's hard and you may not share the same opinions. Agree to disagree. Love is the most potent energy around. It will chase away fear and doubt and all the other nonsense going on out there. So build stronger, loving bonds and just be. This is not yet the time for action. That is coming. You may be aroused to fight or disagree, because that sort of energy is around us at the moment as well. So just be aware of that and use your inner strength to resist assertive action unless it really is in self-defense. Sometimes those words you share in anger are quite hurtful, and you can't take them back. You can't swallow them back. So just be careful. Just as an aside, I'm expecting some I'm going to make some cosmetic upgrades to my home during this time. I tell you what is interesting, juggling the various suppliers and quotes. It's like choosing between apples, oranges, pears and bananas to put on the floor or the walls or the ceiling or whatever. Update next time if I have the opportunity in amongst the chaos in my home. Now, business. If you're in a business, it's a challenging time to make the right decisions to move forward. I think in business, it's always challenging to make the right choices. I suggest, given the prevailing energy, you continue to make subtle and effective changes to your communication with your clients or your patients or your patrons. Keep the communication going. I have to say, in the next few weeks with Mercury retrograde, it's a little difficult, but just still focus on keeping good, clear communications, and not necessarily loads of communication, but a little bit often is more useful than a huge download once in a while. Use video and technology to your advantage. Spend some time planning your significant action for some time to come in a few months' time, when the prevailing energy is much more supportive of assertive action on all levels. It's not that your actions now will be in vain, but they'll be far more potent when the energy is with you. It's a bit like the difference between catching the wave or paddling against it. You get it? Yoga. As you know, yoga for me is a regular practice to serve to calm my mind, my body, and my soul. I practice every day. Some days I do more than others. I'm also a human being, and sometimes I think, I can't be bothered, I'll just go to bed. So I sympathise. I also swim or bike or walk regularly for aerobic exercise. And so there are several YouTube classes on my channel right now for yoga. I've just recorded one for the energy of Cancer, and that should be uploaded in the next few days. But do the other classes. Do the one in Aries. Do the one in Taurus. Do the one in Gemini. They're all a little bit different. And they'll be just as helpful as the Cancer energy itself. If you like them, share them. Share them with other people. Share them with whoever. Please remember to like and or subscribe to my channel. That really helps share the love. But if you prefer another style of yoga, that's okay. There's lots to choose from. There's so many styles available. You choose something that works for you. My daughter informs me, there are many options on YouTube, Mum. Your competition is really strong. That's your market, Well, maybe it is. You tell me, how do I differentiate my style from others? I'd love to know your suggestions. Lastly, supplements. Nutrition is an important part of self-responsibility, particularly as we go into the Aquarian age. And in this season of winter in the Southern Hemisphere, fish oils are a very valuable supplement, providing nutrients to support the respiratory system in particular. Optimum Omega, sourced from pristine waters in the northern oceans, provides an excellent source of supplementation at an affordable rate. And Optimum Omega contains natural vitamin E, a potent antioxidant essential for your skin, your eye, and your immune system. Let me know when you'd like to receive your Optimum Omega capsules. And this is currently available at a discount price. In the meantime, enjoy your hibernation in your Cancer energy. Do connect with my yoga videos. Until next time, bye for now. God bless you.